Hey, it's John, and welcome to the interview. Today, I am joined by Nigel Bennett, who is the author of the book, Take That Leap. Nigel consults with entrepreneurs and young people worldwide about bringing their talents to solving some of our planet's most pressing challenges. As a philanthropist, Nigel donates all his profits from his books and speaking engagements to organizations that support poverty, human rights, social services, and the environment. And he's got like this really amazing adventurous soul. If you actually look at his book, Take That Leap, which you should definitely check out. He's got a picture of himself like jumping over this like ravine or something like that. It looks like it's in like northern Alaska or someplace like that. There's the book right there. Take That Leap. Yep, there he is. And that's actually you, right?
Yeah, it is. It's about 25 years ago, but it is me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep, right. Maybe not quite a recent photo, right? But it's still a pretty amazing screenshot and adventure there. So let's just start off by just sharing a little bit about your background. Like, you know, what brought you to this point, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, wow. Thanks, John. I mean, it's awesome to be here. I really appreciate it. And yeah, my background started. I mean, I don't know how far back you want to go, but yeah. I was born in Wales in the UK in a small little town in 1962, and my parents immigrated to Canada in '66 on a people mover ship. And my dad didn't really have that much money, and he came to Vancouver on the West Coast and started a pressure washing company. And, cleaning buildings and bridges and things like that. And there was a massive oil spill in 1968-69 down in Santa Barbara, California, where a Union oil spill platform blew up. And so we ended up taking a truck and his buddy, another Welshman, down to Santa Barbara and got a contract to clean beaches. He made a little bit of money from that. And he came back to Vancouver and started an oil spill cleanup company. And I started working for him when I was about 16 in a consulting business. So as a very young guy, right out of high school, I found myself the next day actually on a plane to Venezuela. And I found myself over the next 10 years, hanging out of helicopters and fixed wing aircraft, photographing sensitivities along coastlines of many countries, and one of them was Venezuela. And when the first couple of days down there, I was getting shot at by FARC guerrillas from over the Colombian border in a helicopter. Wow! And I was like 17, 18 years old, and it was a really big awakening for me, And so I ended up coming back to Vancouver. I went to technical school, British Columbia Institute of Technology, and I got a mechanical engineering degree. I actually got thrown out after the first term because I'm ADD and dyslexic, but I got back in, and I eventually finished it. And I ended up in Egypt on and off for about 5 years doing the same thing. And the one thing that really struck me was the contamination, and the pollution in the Red Sea. I was a scuba diver as well. So I was doing underwater surveys and helicopter surveys from above. And everything was contaminated with oil. And I remember meeting an American ex-Vietnam helicopter pilot who'd been shot down a couple of times in Vietnam. Really nice guy. His name was Johnny, and he came out of the heliport, and he said to me, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make a difference. And I looked at him. I was probably 22 by this time. And I said, well, yeah, I think I can make a difference. And he goes, but I really don't think what you're doing is really going to help anything. I appreciate what you're doing. I'll take you up. I'll show you contaminated areas. But that stuck with me for the rest of my life. Him basically telling me I really couldn't make a difference, and I thought that I could. So I don't know how far you want me to go with this part, but I was there for on and off for 5 years in Egypt, and I was still working for my dad's company. And on the very last day of our contract there, I was in an apartment in Alexandria, Egypt, and I had a phone call from one of our guys in Cairo and said that my father was missing. And he had been arrested by the police, thrown in jail. And I went to Cairo to see what I could do. And in the middle of the night, I was convinced, my father actually had his one phone call. He phoned our hotel, and I was sitting on the floor with one of our guys. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang off the desk. And he answered it, and he said, "It's for you." And it was my dad speaking in code, basically telling me to get the heck out of the country. And because I'd be safer, because if they got me too, we'd be in big trouble. So I escaped. I got to London, and I worked for months and months and months, and finally got my father out of jail in Egypt. One of the witnesses against him actually died in prison. So they had to let him go. And I got back to Vancouver, and I realized over time that my father and my ethics completely clashed. And I eventually, what I did is I broke off of my father's company. My sister was working there as well with me, and another fellow, and I took all of these guys, we left, and we formed a company called Aqua-Guard Spill Response, which, 25, 27 years later, our mission is to protect the world's most precious resource, which is water. And my father, wasn't happy. But we had to do our own thing, and I just had to break away. So that's a bit of everything in a nutshell there for you.
Yeah, it's quite a background there. You traveling, high adventures. Sounds like a James Bond movie or something, but
at times it felt like it. Yeah, a little bit.
Very cool. So what would you say, getting to know you a little bit more, like actually brings you to life? Like what really activates you inside?
Yeah, well, now I'm 57, and I love, it's a bit of a cliche, but I love giving back. I love, it took me 3 years to write this book because I am dyslexic and I've got ADD, but I did write it. I did want to write my own book. I didn't want to hire a ghostwriter, so I got an editor, and I put down these stories of my life, my business, family, and put it into this book. And so I really get a lot of joy out of, people asking me to be on their podcasts. It's unbelievable how things have opened up since last January. I've been on so many podcasts, so many speaking engagements. I was invited to speak at MIT for their Master's Entrepreneurs program there. And I'm just absolutely blown away. So that's giving me a lot of, gets me out of bed and gets me revved up. But I really like giving back. My family and I, now we're heavily involved in philanthropy. We lead trips to Mexico to build homes for the homeless. We've gone like 18 times and taken 700-800 people. I like working with the at-risk youth here in Vancouver. But it's all for me now in my stage of life is really giving back, and I love it. But I haven't always been that way. It really took quite a shakeup to have me see and understand what was really important, and therefore my book is it's risking it all for what really matters. It's what really matters in our lives. It's not running and following the shiny objects. At the end of the day, that gets pretty dull. So it's what really matters and what matters in my life anyway is my family and giving back. And I've found the most powerful thing for me is giving back with my family. If I give back, if I write a check, and that's great. If I give to whatever, that's fantastic. If I give of myself, if I go to a soup kitchen or I help some homeless people or whatever it may be, that's amazing. But if I go with my family and we all give together, I really haven't found anything more powerful than that for me anyway.
Yeah, the impact on your family as well as the people that are being served.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've always kind of had this adventurous spirit, it seems like, over your life, right? And
right.
Everybody has that. So like what has motivated you continually to kind of keep trying new things, keep expanding? Because I think I've watched an interview you did or something where you said you're always trying things that are new, or you're always open to new foods, or you're trying something strange,
Right.
So,
yeah.
And I'm sure that adds a lot of color to life, right? But how do you...
It does, yeah. I think Anthony Bourdain said something like that, before he passed away, was that, to sit down with, people in their cultures and have a meal with them. Now that's truly living, and it really is true, but I found that because I was in business, I had my, I'm a startup. I broke off my father's company. I didn't know what we were doing. We had no money. We were in debt. We had everything leveraged. We had our little house leveraged. Wow. We had every room in our house rented out for students, and our driveway and our everything, every inch was rented out. And we had no time to think. We were in survival mode, for years. It was like 20 years when I first got married to my amazing wife. This year's 30 years we've been married. And but I always found my sister was key, because my sister worked with me for a few years anyway. And she was always into adventure, and she would always take off, and her boyfriends were mountain guides and all this. So they would drag me along on these climbing expeditions and rock climbing adventures. And they basically called me the expendable brother, because I would always be the one to go sniff off the new route, or they'd rope me up and I'd go climb up and take a peek. And she called me the expendable brother. But I found when I did that, and it didn't have to be rock climbing. It could be doing anything. It was a break from business and from life. It was a break to go and actually reset. And for me, it was climbing, or it was, whatever, backcountry skiing, whatever. I would go away for just a couple of days, and there I could process what was going on in my life. And then I'd come back totally refreshed and be able to kind of take the next step or the next jump, leap, whatever it would be, in the business and life. But if I just kept going at that burn rate, I would have just fried. So those gaps that I took, for me, it was adventure. For me, it was adrenaline, and that would get me. For other people, it could be anything else. But I think it's really important for all of us to take those breaks, to clear our heads, and we come back and we can think. And I know that, Bill Gates and all these, extremely successful entrepreneurs, that's always been their mantra, is they leave, they have a break from their business for months on end, and they'll come back refreshed with the new ideas and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, the power of renewal, and like you say, zooming out a little bit. Otherwise, your to-do list you get stuck below the trees. You can't see the forest, kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. You need to kind of look down from 30,000 feet occasionally, as opposed to being right in the fire all the time, which we all are. We're always in the fire, And as entrepreneurs, there's always a fire to put out. Every day there's something to put out. I call, for me, I went for years and years and years. I call it the doorknob effect, and I'm sure your listeners feel this too. Every day I came to work, I would put my hand on the doorknob, and I would just close my eyes and I'd take a deep breath before I stepped in, right? Because every day was a bee's nest. Every day was chaos. People wanted me. I needed me to do this, and I just called it the door every day. And so we need that break.
Yeah, absolutely. You must have a wonderful wife too to go through all of those challenges.
Very tolerant. Yeah, that's for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about your business life and those things. So one of the things you had shared with me prior to this, a couple of questions you had sent over, was about risk. And I thought that was a good question to talk about here, because, there are some risks involved, obviously, in creating your own endeavors and going into debt and doing all this stuff. So what are some of your biggest risks around your business that you've taken around your business and in your life even?
Wow. It seems like there's been so many. As I mentioned, in the early days, it was just breaking away. The hardest thing for me was breaking away from my father. My father was such a strong figure, and he was a business leader, as I considered. So breaking away from him was the biggest risk I ever took at that point. I was a young man, and I worked with him for 10 years. I could have sat back and been comfortable. I'd probably be in jail, but that breaking away from that grip was really tough. And then going out on our own and starting up our own little business, and from day to day it was a risk. We knew that most of our business was overseas. I had traveled so extensively overseas, and I had clients that needed our help. So that's why I focused overseas as opposed to here in North America first. So it was every day was something, are we going to go to Taiwan? I'm going to go to Taiwan. We're going to bid on this contract, and, maybe we're going to get it. Maybe, we just kept pushing the envelope. And, the older I got, we had a lot of screw ups, and, we lost a lot. We almost lost everything so many times, but we did, it's a bit of a cliche, that, we did learn a lot from all of those mistakes, small and big. And, so some of the things that I wish that I had done, a little bit earlier in my life and my career would have been join not a mentors group, but join a peers group, peer group. Yeah. And I joined something called the Entrepreneurs Organization, which completely changed my life. And I can talk about that a little bit later if you like, but yeah.
Yeah. Vern's program is great. Yeah. They have a lot of, different chapters for everybody listening, entrepreneur organizations. It's very, very good. So, all right. So yeah, obviously you took a lot of risks and stuff like that. What are some of the mistakes that you feel like you made that you would go back and you would change, or would you change them?
Well, that's yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. So what I would change was when you mentioned Vern Harnish, who's one of the founders of the Entrepreneurs Organization, as I would have joined an organization like that a lot sooner.
Yeah,
that completely changed my life and my family's life forever because of the connections and the wisdom that we've got from all of these people, and we were all in the same boat. So that was absolutely key. And
what were some of the big takeaways you got from that? Like what shifted for you?
Well, yeah, my wife and I were talking. We talk about it all the time, and we base it on if this didn't happen. I mean, basically. A friend of mine, a 300-pound lineman from the Edmonton Eskimos, a professional Canadian football team here, dragged me physically into the Entrepreneurs Organization because he just retired from football, and he said, "Nigel, you have to join this." And I was too busy. I was like, "No, I haven't got time. I don't want to hang out with a bunch of perceived millionaires. I wasn't in that head. I liked hanging out in the mountains, climbing mountains. I didn't want to hang out with these guys." But when I joined, I got dragged in and I joined. I found that we were all in the same boat. We all had young families, most of us. We all had either startups or just were in the beginning of our business stage, and we were able to share notes and we were able to lean on each other, because you feel like an alien. As an entrepreneur, you feel like an alien. You feel like nobody else is doing this. It's just me. Nobody else feels but that's BS. I mean, so and that led to so many other things. I mean, EO got me over to the Entrepreneurs Masters program, or Birthing a Giants, over at MIT in Boston. And I just finished my 15th year there. So you go for a week, once a year, and it's a 3-year program, but we kept it going for 15 years. And it's the same thing. It's just been absolutely invaluable. So joining a peer group like that has just been
But did they help you with, like, Vern has his strategy, execution, people, cash, kind of scaling up methodology?
Yeah. I mean, Vern now runs a group called Gazelles as well, which is coaching. So out of the Entrepreneurs Organization, Vern, I remember the first day Vern came in and sat in front of our room at MIT, and he stood up and he said, "How many out here?" There were 75 of us in our class, all business owners. "How many of you out there have coaches?" And I had actually just hired a coach like 3 weeks before. So I stuck my hand up and I looked around.
Proud, huh? Yes.
I was like, yeah, me, and I looked around. There were 3 other people. That was it.
Wow.
3 people. And Vern just said, "3 of you guys? You've got to be kidding me. You guys are business owners. Do you realize that, everybody from, Michael Dell, Bill Gates, and blah, 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 all the way down the line, they all have 3 or more coaches, and they rely on these guys. You can't do it alone." And I was absolutely blown away. So, that was the first day of this. I've been going 15 years. That was the very first day of the first year. And that little bit, and I had this coach, and I've been working with my coach for 15 years now.
Yeah.
Totally set my life up to be able to have the freedom that I've wanted and needed,
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. People get a little weirded out about that industry, but look at some of the best athletes, Tiger Woods in his prime, and they all, even though they're better golfers than their teachers in all likelihood, they're the best in the world, they still have outside perspectives and coaches that watch them, that give them feedback, soundboard,
absolutely,
all this kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, we can't. The thing that I've learned from this is we can't go through life on our own.
Right.
Like, we can't isolate ourselves. We need help. We all need help. And I mean, a coach is the key thing. And I mean, there's other advisors. I mean, depends what you're doing. Financial advisors, good ones, and we all need help. We just can't. It's just too daunting to go through life.
Yeah, we need people
on our own. We need people. We need people smarter than us.
That's probably the number one mistake I hear, is that people try to, because we grow up, and a lot of high achievers we're a lot of them, some of them were good students, or they thrive on competition, where I myself beat other people. And that can be very damaging. I know I've had that issue a lot too, growing up as an athlete, and kind of growing up in this, like, I need to beat other people instead of
working with them,
working with people and synergizing. So that's one of the biggest that I definitely hear is, trying to be the all-knowing genius by yourself.
I mean, I joined the Entrepreneurs Organization, where I had a forum group, which is a focus group. There's 9 of us in this focus group. And I was in that focus group for probably 10 or 12 years. And then we evolved out of it, which is fine. But then I joined another group called Tiger 21, which was similar, was more of an investment type group, focus group in there. And I was in there for 3 or 4 years. And this MIT program that I go to, I have a focus group in that, and we have monthly calls on Zoom here. And it's just, and you may be with one of the groups for a while, but everybody evolves in a different way. You evolve out of it, but you join another one doing something else. And I've been doing that for 15 or 20 years now, and it's I'm in two groups again here.
Good stuff. So one of your biggest mistakes then, trying to go on your own, trying to figure everything out on your own.
Trying to figure it all out on my own. Exactly. I did it for so many years, and until I was literally dragged in by the football player. Into the
in real life, it's okay to look on other people's papers, right? Instead of in school where you get punished for that. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So
share the knowledge, share the wisdom. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's shift to you on a broader scale then. Like, what are you most proud of in your life?
Wow, man. I'm right now, I'm really proud of I think the way that we raised our kids. My wife and I, Reiko, she's from Japanese descent. We decided to raise our kids to be global citizens. And I find a lot of entrepreneurs, we just don't have time for our kids and our families, because we make this thing up that we're trying to provide for the family, and I can't come home for dinner tonight and spend it with the kids because I'm working late. It's all BS. And I made a point of always being there for all my kids, soccer, hockey games, whatever it was. And now they're in their mid-20s and they're my best friends. I worked with my coach. My whole goal when I started with my coach was freedom. I want, like Braveheart, I want freedom. I wanted freedom. And he allowed me to set that up it took a long time. It took me 10 years to do it. But in 2014, 2015, I was able to set my business up to run without me. I have a really great guy that's running everything. He's a new business partner. And he's in his late 30s. And I was able to take a year off, and I traveled with my family, and we went to 17 different countries, and I was working a bit, but I was able to take my kids, and, we were in, we stayed in humble spots. We rented little apartments. We backpacked. We had one bag each. So in every photograph we're in one of 3 t-shirts, because that's all we had. A pair of shorts, flip-flops. But I was working in little, and I would take my one son with me to every meeting that I ever went to. I'd be climbing on ships in Brazil offshore, operating heavy equipment, and that's what he was being trained to do that. And so I'm really proud that I was able to push away the naysaying in my head, saying it's not possible. You can't do it. Nigel, you can't do it. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have this responsibility. It was all made up in my own head. And with the help of my coach, he basically said, let's put this in action. And I was able to do it. So it's 4 years since I've been back. And I said to my wife the other day, we were on a walk in the forest there. And I said, I can't believe that we actually did it. Like, we actually did that. We took a year and we traveled with the kids in the perfect time in their life. One was in the 9th grade and the other one had just graduated from high school. And my other one was in university, and he would kind of come in and out. And that brought us together as the tightest group of people I just can't imagine, and it's sad when I see other people in my class in Boston that have no relationship with their kids. They're on their 3rd wife and they don't have a relationship. and they got to work. It's like, guys, let's all step back. And I mean, so for me, that's what I'm mostly proud
That's
of.
amazing. Yeah, no, and I hear that a lot of family, obviously, from that question. But what you did
Yeah.
was spectacular. Because you're right, there is a big issue there amongst successful, hard driving people that
Yeah.
it's their work or nothing. And
Yeah.
so it sounds like you were kind of in that spot where you were overworking, and then you were able to bring in an integrator to your business to run operations more. That
Exactly.
freed
Yeah.
you up enough to where things were running, and you were able
Yeah.
to take your family out. Was it fear of just letting go, like control, or that it would all fall apart? Is that kind of
Absolutely.
down to?
All of the above.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I was offered, I was right in the middle of selling my business in, 2012. And I had a British company. They'd given us a deposit. They'd done their due diligence. And then I was invited by a speaker at my class at MIT, this lady, Lynn Twist, which wrote an amazing book called The Soul of Money. She's an amazing lady. And she invited myself and my family and other classmates at MIT to go with her deep into the Amazon and spend time with a tribe that had only had contact with the outside world over the past 10 years, only through her organization.
Wow.
So I'm coming on this, but I was in the middle of selling my business. And then it was in 2010. It was in the middle of selling my business. And the BP Horizon oil spill had just happened in the Gulf of Mexico. So our business was going nuts. But I was summoned, to go to the Amazon, and I chose to go to the Amazon with her and took my family. And we did a ceremony, which I had no idea we were going to do. Did a ceremony deep in the Amazon, and we took a serum called ayahuasca. And apparently, I mean, I've done a little bit of research since, because I didn't know, but apparently it taps down into your deep consciousness. And what I saw there and what I realized was that my consciousness was telling me, Nigel, don't sell your business. Don't sell your business. Keep your business. Leverage the crap out of your business to do good in the world. And then everything will fall into place. I'm like, what the? So I flew back out of the Amazon. I flew to London. I pulled the deal off the table.
Wow.
And then I bought out my existing partner and then had another guy come in and take his spot, who's basically running it all. And I've been using my platform that I built. Because I had this platform. I had a 35-year platform in the world. And if I sold, I would be giving that up. And I realized that if I kept the platform, leveraged my platform to do good, whatever good was going to be, and that's what I've been doing for the past 6 or 7 years now. It's just been amazing. And I just didn't see it. I could have had a big bag of cash, and I'd probably be selling T-shirts on the beach somewhere or something. But then what would I do? It's trying to find your life purpose is and that's what I guess I had a revelation or something in the Amazon. Is it's kind of another kind of a cliche. Oh, yeah, you went off in the Amazon, but it's actually true. I did.
Yeah.
And I realized that my purpose here is to help out in any way that I can. So
yeah, beautiful. So, and speaking of that, then, like, how do you see your legacy here with your time on this planet? Do you think about that? Is that something that you want to proactively shape?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't find it as my legacy, but I just think it's the legacy of everybody around me that's getting attracted to me, and I'm getting attracted to them. I came out of the Amazon and I set my business up and it was running, and then I got involved in everything. I was trying to save the world, right, which was really kind of overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And then I went on another trip in 2012 into Guatemala with my family again, and I was having a hard time, really getting my head around everything. And so I was told by one of the guys we were with, just go off and sit in the woods against a tree and have a think for half an hour. So I did, but it still wasn't resonating with me. And I really didn't think that I could make a difference. So it was resonating back to what I'd heard from the helicopter pilot in Egypt so many years before. I really don't think you can make a difference, but I thought I could make a difference. And now so many years later, I've been trying to make this difference. And I sat down against a kapok tree, one of these big trees. And I looked down, and there was a whole bunch of cutter ants in front of me. Those cutter ants carrying their little sticks and their little leaves. And they were they were kind of walking in front of me, and I had a bracelet on my hand, on my wrist, and I took it off and I blocked their path. And I watched them, and they kind of, bumped into it, and then they kind of figured out their way around it, and then they kept on going, all carrying their little stick or whatever is to the nest, the collective. And then I just sat there and I go, hang on a second, Nigel, you got this all wrong. You are making a difference. You are doing your part. You're doing your little part or your big part. And there's so many other people in the world that are doing their parts, but we just don't see each other. We don't see what we're doing. But collectively, all of us are making a huge difference. And so I realized, if that's what my legacy is connecting with people that are doing really cool stuff, then I've done my job. Because we do make a difference. If we stop on the street and we give somebody $5, a homeless person, we don't ask questions. We do all make this massive collective difference. And so, I came out of there feeling, kind of refreshed and a lot better that, because I really was questioning, I'm trying to save the world, but, how do you do that? Bill Gates is saving all these kids in Africa with these injections and, polio, whatever he's doing. And I'm like, how could I ever be this guy? But you don't have to be.
Yeah. It's an anxiety provoking question, right? And a lot of people is, how am I playing a big enough game? Or
exactly.
That creates a lot of discontent inside of us,
Yeah. And we don't have to. We don't have to play the big game. We just have to do something. We just have to take that first step. And once we take the first little step, everything just kind of makes sense. And it snowballs from there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Nigel, I appreciate you coming on and having a chat with me and sharing your journey a bit. And any final words before we wrap this up, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I would say is to any of the entrepreneurs out there that are listening is, don't sacrifice your family for a business crisis, because we're always in crisis. There's always a crisis every day. Just take that extra time with your kids. I mean, they grow up really quick, and before you know, they've left the nest. So family bonds. That's for me anyway.
Family first. Yeah, very
family
good.
first, John. Yeah.
All right, very good. And make sure, let's show the book one more time. Take That Leap. Make sure to pick that up by Nigel Bennett.
Can I just say one last thing?
Sure.
There's one other initiative that I created. We took the year off and we traveled, and we're surfers as well. And we found that a lot of the oceans were full of plastic and garbage. You see a lot of this on the internet these days. So my son and I, actually my two sons and my daughter and I, we created this app called True Beach. I don't know if you can see that there. So this is True Beach.
Okay.
True Beach. And what it is it's for iOS. All you have to do is you just download it for free. It's all free. It's just to help bring awareness to the true conditions of our oceans and our beaches, and hopefully, create change, change the tide of the pollution in our oceans.
I love that. True Beach. All right. True Beach. We'll make sure to link that up too. Is there a website for that, or?
It's www.truebeach.co.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, Nigel, thank you so much for your time. Hope everybody enjoyed this discussion with Nigel Bennett. Make sure to pick up his book, Take That Leap. Yeah. And awesome. Check out the True Beach app, and follow Nigel. We'll have all of your links and stuff linked up below this interview, so people can get those here on this page.
Fantastic.
Hope you all enjoyed this discussion. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
All right. Thanks, John.